This is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoy this Critical Thought, your daily discussion on game design. And be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and you can pitch future Critical Thought topics. Alright, before we get going with today's Critical Thought, just want to give you guys a heads up that we're approaching 1,500 subscribers here on YouTube. My hair seems to be going every which way. And if we hit 1,500, I figure we'll have another Let's Play vote. As you know, right now the Bastion Let's Play is going on. Then we got the 1,000 play of some of the games from Zachtronics, which that will probably take us until 2019 at this rate. But it's always great to have another vote. So if you're a first timer, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you are a regular, be sure to let your friends know. For today's Critical Thought, we're going to talk about downtime in video games. And downtime, when it comes to game design, is an extension of grinding. And we talked about grinding in earlier Critical Thought, but to reiterate, grinding by my definition is when there is only one way for the player to progress, and anything else that the player does simply doesn't matter. If you look at MMOs as an example of this, you see this in games where the questing basically is locked to certain levels. So what that means is, if I'm level 40 and I have 10 level 5 quests left to do, they're basically worthless to me. They're not going to give me any experience. Fighting the enemies is not going to give me any comparable loot that I need, and it's just basically a waste of time. And one of the great things about Guild Wars was how everything was scaled to the player's level, or I'm sorry, the player's level scaled to the region, so that no matter what you did, you were always getting comparable experience and loot relative to your character, and when you leave that region, you just get boosted back up. But downtime, while it isn't a part of grinding, it can also be built into the design or UI of a game. And when I think about downtime, I'm thinking of anything that is essentially stopping me from playing the game, or time spent in the game but not playing the game. And I know that doesn't really make all that much sense, but there are several examples I want to talk about, both big and small. The first one would be from a UI point of view. As you know, many games can have very fiddly or cumbersome UIs. Multi-screens you have to go through, a lot of clicks and confirmation, stuff along those lines. Like, we can see this in, like, as an extreme example would be something like an RPG where you have to, in order to heal your character, you have to go into the menu, go into items, click on a healing item, click that you want to confirm to use a healing item, click on the character you want to use, click on the confirmation again to use it, and then you leave the menu. Now, that is an extreme example, and I'm pretty sure no designer would be crazy enough to go that minutia when it comes to UI design. But we've seen cases where developers will essentially, I guess, run out the clock, in a matter of speaking, when it comes to actions or player mechanics. One example that drove me crazy, and I'm very certain when I say this, every one of you will look at me like, what the hell is wrong with this guy, was from Hotel Dusk. This was a DS visual novel game that involved solving a mystery in a hotel, as the title suggests. And what they did was, I mean, as a hotel, there are tons and tons and tons of rooms and doors to go through. And you can't just walk up to a room and enter it. No, you have to walk up to the door, click on the door, the door appears on your screen, you have to pull out your stylus or use your finger, click on the doorknob, and then click it to open it. And you have to do this for every door you want to enter in the game. And it drove me crazy back then to do that, because it's simply just wasted time. Just let me click on the door and go in. And that's the thing about downtime that's very important to grasp. We're not talking about 5, 10, 15 minutes. We can usually talk about things in seconds, with a very rare exception that we're going to talk about next. And I know what you're thinking. If it's only like 10, 15 seconds here and there, what's the big deal about downtime? The thing you have to understand is that downtime at its worst is something that is repeated consistently through the play. And this comes back to like that expression, death by 1,000 cuts. For instance, one of the great things about like Neo and Dark Souls 3 is that death is very quick. I die, I see the you're dead sign, get a quick loading bar, I'm back in it. I may be 5 to 10 seconds out of the action each death. But what happens when that death screen or that death loading is longer? And you're spending more and more time essentially not playing the game. Here's an example that I was thinking about. The first version of Bloodborne, or 1.0, a lot of people complained about the loading times. We were talking like 40 seconds to a few minutes per death. So let's say we're at a boss fight, and it takes 2 minutes, or let's make it simple. Let's say it takes 30 seconds to get from the lantern to the boss. So 30 seconds, I get to the boss, he kills me. Now I have to wait 2 minutes to reload the game. Now it's 2 minutes plus another 30 seconds. So each time that I die, I'm basically waiting 2 minutes and 30 seconds to get back into what I was actually doing. And again, this adds up. And we're talking about over the course of an entire game. And this can just eat away at a player's resolve to keep playing a game. As a really good example of how optimization or unoptimizing your game can come back to bite you, we have Splatterhouse. And Splatterhouse is a very underrated game. I really enjoyed this one. Having Jim Cummings be the voice of the Terror Mask was just a moment of sheer brilliance there. And the game, from an action standpoint, wasn't that bad. What killed the game was the loading times. And this is how you know that there was a problem with the engine or someone screwed up with programming the game. When you load a level, go from level 1 to level 2, it takes about maybe 15-20 seconds to load that level. Nothing bad. If you die in the level, it takes about 2.5 to 3 minutes per load to reload that level. Now that is crazy. And it's even to the point where you could start the level with that 20-second load, fall into a death trap 5 seconds in, and now you're waiting 2.5 to 3 minutes to get back into the game. And remember, this is per death. So if you get stuck at a section where you are consistently dying, and there were plenty of death traps and one-hit kills in the game, you're waiting on average 2.5 to 3 minutes per death. And this can add up to maybe 15 to 20 minutes extra just to beat one level. And imagine this over the course of the entire game. And trust me, the final section where you have basically a protect the person or protect the point in this game was maddening to play on hard mode. And this is all, again, just wasted downtime that comes back to bite the player and can make your game be worse than it was. Now, a recent example of this that actually led into a Twitter or a tweet that I put out a few days ago is from the game Bravely Default and its sequel, Bravely Default Second Layer. Now, both games are job-based RPGs, and you know I love those games. Again, if you have not played Etrian Odyssey for the 3DS, get it if you enjoy those kinds of job-based games. And in Bravely Default, you have two experiences, or two kinds of experience. You have your character experience that, character goes from level 5, 6, 7, grows in health and base stats. And then you have your job level and job experience. And the jobs in the game essentially control what you can do with that respective job. As you go up in level, the job unlocks new passives, new options you can use in combat, and abilities that you can without getting too much into the system, you can basically use them with another job, creating sort of like a dual job kind of deal. But we start talking about that, we'll be here for another 15 minutes. But the problem is, in order to level that up, job experience and character experience are separate. So you can have a level 5 character who is a level 4 wizard, and you can have a level 10 character who's a level 3 warrior. And I'm just making that up just for example's sake. So the only way to properly level things up, as you guess, is to grind. And for each job, you have to grind more. Now with the second game, they downplayed the job's impact on your core stats. Before, it was basically, if I'm a high-level warrior, I'm going to get massive bonuses to physical defense, physical attacks, etc. But if I switch to a wizard, all those bonuses go away, and they go to boost the intelligence. So what that meant was, if I decide to switch my character to be a wizard for a fight, and he's only level 1, I am going to be barely doing any damage until I level that guy up. In the sequel, because my base stats were higher, if I'm a level 1 wizard, yes, I'm going to be weaker, but it's not going to be like I just, put both hands behind my back. And the problem, though, and where this grinding and this downtime comes in, is that you can set the game to basically autoplay itself. You can issue different commands and say, okay, wizard cast all your fire spells, warrior cast all your melee attacks, archer do this, and etc. And this is not hyperbole. You can basically set the game up to play itself with the random encounters. This is like your typical JRPG where regular enemies, once you get to a certain point of stats, they're nothing to cause you trouble, and then the bosses are where the tactical and the job-based system come into play. So what ends up happening is you can just basically just run around the game and let it play itself. There's no thought on the player's part. There's literally no action other than pressing A to end the battle or L to end it in some cases. And you can just basically watch TV while you're just playing the game like this. And you're essentially not really playing the game. It's a combination of grinding and downtime, in a manner of speaking. And this is one of those things that I want to ask you folks about, and this is from the tweet I put out. Can you think of any RPGs that have no experience or leveling whatsoever? Essentially removing the grind. And that is a very interesting topic, and we may have to come back to that in a post and critical thought in the future. But I want to ask you folks about that one. So let's wrap things up for today. As we're talking about, or as the topic is, downtime is the amount of time that the player is just not spent actually playing the game. It could be due to grinding out levels or experience to move forward, or spending their time dealing with UI and multi-screen displays and stuff like that. Removing downtime is the hallmark of a great designer. If you can keep the depth of your game while removing downtime, then you are on your way to making an amazing game. And part of the ways to detect downtime comes with play testing. Watch your players, see what are they doing consistently. Is there an action that they are repeating constantly as they're playing? And if there is one, can you reduce it? Can you make it a simple hotkey? Again, going back to like an inventory system. Instead of having to go into my inventory to use healing items, let me just simply have a hotkey that immediately uses my, the first potion in my inventory, heal my character up. And you can look at any ARPG as an example of this. Excuse me. If you need the player to go through 3 or 4 windows of information to find or make one command, maybe put that command on the front page or have it as a shortcut. Again, anything that you can reduce to keep the player invested in playing your game, the better. And I have one more example of this I want to talk about. One of the things that drove me crazy in a game like Clockwork Empires was the amount of minutia that was involved with building items. And what happened was you couldn't just, let's say, build a desk. First, I had to build the lumber that was needed. Wait for that to get done. Then I had to go back into the UI, click build the item that's part of that desk. Okay, wait for that to get done. Then I had to go back to the workshop and then officially build the desk. Another way would be, let's say we're building a sword in a game. So first, I have to get the ore and break it down. Then I have to smelt the ore into a bar. Then I have to actually build the sword itself. And each time I'm going in and out of the UI. One of the best things that Stonehearth did that I really do appreciate is how the AI is set up to basically auto-queue these tasks. So let's go back to the sword example, that I want to build a sword. but I need to go through step 1, 2, and 3 first. Well, if I click on that top goal or that top command, the AI will know instinctively to do steps 1, 2, and 3, and then build the sword. So I'm not having to go back and forth to the UI. And that's a way of eliminating downtime. Because what exactly am I doing, or what is the player doing that's interesting if they have to simply just keep going back to the same thing over and over again to make one simple command? And again, as developers out there, the best thing you can do to try and eliminate downtime is simply watch your players. See what's stopping them. See what they're spending a lot of time doing that doesn't involve playing your game, and then figure out ways to eliminate or downplay it. And for those of you watching this, whether you're a developer or a consumer, can you think of any really good examples of this kind of downtime? Something that just drove you crazy having to do consistently and repetitively in a single title? And can you think of a game, either through early access or through iteration, that removed downtime in a unique or good way? In a unique or interesting way? Let me know in the comments below, but we'll wrap things up here. Thank you so much for watching today's Critical Thought. If you want to pitch a topic for the future, be sure to subscribe and let me know. And like I said, when we hit 1,500, we'll have another vote. And be sure to check back daily for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. So until tomorrow, have a great night, and I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.